Hey everybody, we are live and I am Big Will, and today we have a discussion. As most of you have probably heard me say at one time or another, I have dyslexia, and that meant that it was a struggle for me to learn how to read and become as good at it as I am now. And I had to overcome a few things. So when I got to looking at the stats and statistics, it kind of frightened me. So I thought, let's talk with some teachers. Let's throw a librarian in there, and let's see if we can't discuss this. And I wanted to do it live, and I wanted to do it with these guys. So in clockwise, starting with my square, introduce yourself, fellas.
So that's me, I guess. Hello, I am John. John's Comics with Kids. I teach third grade. I've been in elementary school education for about 13, 14 years now in some capacity or another, but I've pretty much had third grade the entire time.
Legend?
I've been in the library field for over 23 years. A lot of the things I've done, library clerk, library technician, youth services library technician, and now, library circulation supervisor, also volunteer coordinator. So many little hats when you're doing library work. And I've read to Lap Sit program, which is our 6-month-old children up to 17 months. Then we got our 18-month to 36-month kiddos. Then we got 3 to 5s. And that's all the preschool classes. Then, we work with kids after school, the K through 5, then our middle schoolers, are 6 through 8, and then we have high school. But we have programs for all those kids. I've done every single one of them. I've done book clubs, teen book clubs, all that kind of stuff. Man, so it's important to get these kids reading. That's for dang sure. And man, you can, like I said, read 6 months all the way up to 123, because the oldest lady in the world right now, just Jean Comment, she's only 122. So, man, you could read up to 123. Maybe outlive old Jean Comment at 122. So, man, good stuff, though.
Berk? Did he freeze?
I am a high school teacher. What's up?
You're breaking up a little bit there.
Well,
Ooh.
Chiefs.
Well, that's bad.
Kansas City.
Maybe drop out and try and come back in there, Bert.
Okay, I'll jump right back in.
All right. But as you all know, though, that is Berk nasty. Screw the family. It's Berk nasty. We all know it's true.
54.
Hashtag stay nasty. And he's a high school teacher, and we'll figure out what grade hopefully here in a second when he pops back on. Mm-hmm. But while he's gone, we got Mark Spector Comics in the house. We also have Kachung. He dropped in. Then we got Metaphorical, who's here. Nice. And then we also got, if we have Kachung, guess who else we have? We got Delph here, DK Cosplay. And we now have Berk.
Berk Family 54.
Hello. Is it working now?
Yes.
Is it working now? Okay. All right. I teach high school. I am a journalism teacher. So I do journalism. I do digital media technology, photo 1, photo 2, intro to video, video 2, yearbook, newspaper, radio club, all of that stuff. And I have a great time doing it. I work with kids. Most of the kids that I have are juniors and seniors, though I do still have some freshmen and sophomores as well. This is my 4th year teaching. I did 1 year before that substitute teaching. And I have a master's in education, so that's cool. But I love working with kids. I work with kids that are kind of like poverty. I work with inner city kids a lot. I want to say 40% of our population at our school is Hispanic, about another 35% is African American, and about 30%, 20 to 30% Caucasian. So most of the kids speak a lot of Spanish, don't speak a lot of English, but I have a really good time. Kids are kids, and I'm excited to talk to you guys.
All right. And just to throw my little hat in the ring, I was a substitute teacher once myself. So I've dabbled in the education, and my mom was also a teacher from, I think she started in 1979 and retired my senior year of high school, which was in 2006.
Good for her.
Anyway,
You
I guess,
graduated in 2006?
go ahead.
You graduated in 06?
Yeah.
Me too.
Ah,
We're the same.
Oh,
yeah,
six
almost. There's only a year difference
connoisseurs.
between me and Berk, for those of you that
Great
don't know.
06.
Yeah. So the one thing I'll start us off with is I was reading, and I want to know if this is true. Third grade is the point at which children usually stop learning to read and read in order to learn. And then in fourth grade is when you can usually tell without specific intervention if they will be a proficient reader or not as they get older. What do you guys think of that? And specifically, John, since you teach third grade.
I absolutely agree because I've heard a corresponding statistic as well that probably is related in some ways, which says that most kids have decided by third grade if they think school is for them or not. And I always felt like those two facts were always they weighed heavily on my instruction and my attitude in class. Just getting kids excited to read books, to find books. I think it makes a huge lifelong impact. And I tell to, whenever we do our info nights where parents are coming with new kids, preschoolers or whatever, there's no substitute for reading to your kids every day. There's no substitute for that. Spend that time at night, even if it's just 30 minutes, spend that time. You will pay dividends forever. There is just no substitute.
Man, I agree with that, John. I'm like, third grade. Are you freaking kidding me? I was getting that Sears Christmas catalog. I was in third grade. I was reading all about those products. I was hoping Santa was going to bring me. And man, those were some good times and some good rhymes. But dude, that's what I'm talking about. Third grade, getting into the reading to learn, getting involved in your characters and your stories you love. And man, after that, there's no looking back,
I kind of agree with that. I read to my daughter pretty much every night. Obviously we've graduated from just like books that are like one duck, two geese, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And now she just turned 5 2 weeks ago, and we're reading like bigger kid books right now. We just read this book actually where this girl, she's younger, I don't know, probably like 7 or so. At night, she turns into a superhero that's a kitty cat, and she can talk to kitty cats, and the whole adventure is saving other kitty cats. And so I do think reading younger definitely influences them as they get older. Having said that, I did not like reading like in high school. I would honestly on the ACT, I did really bad on the reading and writing. And if I had to retake it right now, I would do way better on both of those because I'm way more interested in reading and writing, obviously, now than I was when I was younger. So I do think people change throughout their life, but it definitely matters if you're reading to them at a younger age.
All right. Now, most of you probably noticed my thumbnail. Let me explain that a little bit. I got my little notepad here with all my statistics wrote down. That is from the PIAAC. That is the Program for International Assessment of Adults. They do international stuff, and here's what they found. They found that level 1 is non-literate. That's what level 1 means. That's below level 1. Level 1 is below basic. Level 2 is basic, which is reading at a 4th to 5th grade level. Level 3 is called intermediate, and it is reading up to an 8th grade level. Level 4 and level 5, they combine, but if you were to break that out, level 4 is proficient, and it is up to a 10th grade level, and then level 5 is 11th grade level and up, like college, doctorate, everything that's higher. And as of right now, here in America, we are at 4% level 1 below level 1. That means non-literate. 12.9% are below basic. 31.6% of us are at level 2, which is basic. I only read 4 to a 5th grade level. 34.6 are at level 3. That's an 8th grade level, intermediate. And 12% are at a level 4, which is a 10th grade level, and only 2% are at a level 5, which is 11th and up. So the 4 of us here and most everyone in this chat are representative of only 2% of the readers.
If you're nice enough to say that we're all reading at that level.
You guys teach it, so I hope you are.
Dude, I'm definitely a great reader and stuff. I love reading.
So that scared the crap out of me.
That's very
I
sobering.
realized what that means. And before I let you guys take over and comment on it, let me read you a few more statistics. 46% of adults, and this is all in America, 46% of adults can't read their prescription labels. 50% of adults can't read above the 8th grade level when you total it all up. More than 30 million adults can't read and write above the 3rd grade level. And then children of low literacy parents, this is the scariest one of all to me, have a 72% chance that they themselves will be at the same literacy rate of their parents. 75% of state prison incarcerations didn't complete high school or are at the low literacy level, which is below basic. Low literacy levels also connect to $230 billion a year for healthcare because of, as example, 46% of adults can't read their prescription labels.
I will say on that one, my part of me thinks like the names of half of these drugs and companies is almost impossible to pronounce anyway. So like there might be a little overdraw there.
Yeah, true. But what's your comments on some of those statistics? Because, I mean, I've told you what I think of them. They kind of scare me.
Mm-hmm. They're scary. They're messed up. You know, you wonder, of course, you know, you're not supposed to judge others in that kind of sense, or, you know, that's my belief. But, dude, it's almost like you are kind of judging them like, come on, parents, what the hell are you thinking? I mean, reading is like the easiest way to better yourself in life. I mean, they always say, you know, people would say something like libraries aren't, you know, come from a library background, you know, towns, oh, libraries aren't big deal, no biggie. Let's build like a football stadium, or let's build like something else instead and put all our money into that. Screw libraries. They're a bygone era. And then they got to remember that, you know, the great ancient civilizations, you know, they were built, their foundation was built on libraries, you know, and that's how they became the civilizations they became to be, you know, the great civilizations. So, man, for me, the stats suck. They're pretty scary. And you just got to hope, you know, like programs like the one Big Will's going to be going into tonight, stuff like this is going to help readers, you know, of school age across the globe, you know, or at least across America in comic book community style, you know?
Yeah. Don't make me international just yet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love the great legend, and he speaks truth on this kind of topic every time. And I totally agree that you should be able to rate the quality of a civilization based on how they treat reading and how they treat knowledge. And knowledge comes from books. There's just no way around it. I know that we get a lot of information these days from these computer devices that we've got. But as a classroom teacher, I can tell you there's no more valuable tool than a book. And my students just presented their first multi-paragraph essay. They researched a Native American tribe. They had to go to the library, bring in books from the library on their tribe. They had to read those books in class, find and pull information, synthesize, put it in their own words, then craft it into multiple paragraphs and present it. You can't do that with the internet. You just, it wouldn't, that whole process doesn't work the same way with the internet. The number of resources and the accuracy of resources is nowhere near what my local library in that one category has a whole wall of books for elementary school kids. And whether I want to do whether it's the 5th graders doing their report on American Revolution, or whether it's the 4th graders and they're doing their research projects on the solar system, you go to your local library and you get these things that are they're life-changing. I mean, my students at the end of this project, while the other kids are presenting, they're writing down facts that they're learning. And every one of them went home and was talking to their parents about it. Oh my gosh, did you know that this tribe did this? Did you know that this area of the world had this kind of creature or this kind of civilization? The knowledge lasts far longer than the research project does.
Berk, what about you? What's your comment on these statistics? Because you said you deal with more lower income and a lot of language barriers too. How does it affect your area?
It definitely affects us. I definitely agree that parents aren't reading as much as they should, or they're not as literate as they should, especially maybe in inner cities like the school that I teach at. I know my mom read a lot when I was a kid, and she tried to make me read, and I just didn't really like it. But what the difference between what I'm teaching versus what John's teaching is all of my kids have one of these. And so it makes it way more difficult to get them to read things. Now, I'm not an English teacher. I'm not social studies. So I don't make them read long blocks of text. A lot of stuff we're reading are just articles, whether they be, 200 words, 600 words, 1,000 words. They're not, 300 pages. So it does make it a little bit easier for me when I'm working with kids. But I do think that it's definitely a problem. As you said earlier, that a lot of these kids have decided when they're in third grade whether or not they want to keep reading as they get older. So it's definitely something that we need to look at here in the 21st century.
Okay, just responding to Tacoma there. He's waiting on a student to be picked up. Then he'll be able to come home and then join us, hopefully. Now, let me read you some more statistics. These are test scores. Now, you teachers love your test scores. Well, here you are. These are the score rates between 2017 to 2019 and the difference between them for each state at a fourth grade level and then at an eighth grade level. So at the fourth grade level from 2017 to 2019, the low literacy scores, only one state increased their score. And you'll never guess which state that is.
So you're saying only one state in the union was able to take that lowest level and show growth.
Right.
Well,
I vote Idaho.
I was gonna vote somewhere in the north. I'm gonna go with Vermont.
John?
No, I'm gonna go Jersey.
You
are not gonna believe this. It was Mississippi.
Hey.
Oh wow. Hey, all right. Mississippi.
When you're at the bottom,
girls,
every little gain is a big gain. So yay for Mississippi on that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Shout out to Southern Comic Geek in the chat because he guessed it. So boom.
Oh, he did.
He did.
Sweet. I didn't know. All I have is the StreamYard chat. One increase. 34 states had no change at all.
Yeah.
And 17 states had a decrease from the low literacy rate from 17 to 19. One of them, Alabama.
Well, I'm sure.
Now, when you go to the eighth grade, this is even worse.
Oh, no.
There was only one increase, and it wasn't really a state. It was D.C., the District of Columbia. There were 20 of them that had no change, and 31 states had a decrease in their scores, including Alabama, Texas, and California.
I think you know what that is, John and Berk and Will. Y'all seen it. It's these kids today got their cell phones, man, and it's becoming a crutch, and that's why they're not doing as good on those tests because they can't have access to the cell phone tech, in their hand where they can find all the answers by asking Google,
Yeah, and I will say that so I teach at a private school, so it's a slightly different system that we're talking about for us, but I know that we use the same statistical information that you guys are using to determine what you're going to do in your classroom, and a lot of these districts do. And I do feel like in general we've noticed a sort of transition into a need for almost specializing education and feeling like kids need things that I wasn't trained in when I first started learning how to teach, and that there's all the need for teachers to constantly get educated on what the growing needs are for their students is so valuable, which is why I was applauding Berk's master's. I mean, I think that's really valuable. I just say invaluable. It's going to almost be a necessity, and special education teachers are becoming so necessary in classrooms, and for those kids with dramatic needs to be able to meet those needs, those kids that you're talking about at the lowest level and wanting to get growth and show growth when they're already feeling like their head is underwater. That's a tough job, and hard on the teacher, hard on the student, hard on the school district. So I think that there's just a real need to change some fundamentals for those kids,
Absolutely. A lot of the stuff in like my class, they can't really use their computer or their phone. They do use a computer, but they can't really use their phone to find an answer for, because almost everything we do, like 90% of it, is like hands-on work. Like go out and shoot, a video, interview 3 people, go out, interview people and write an article about them. Go to this event and take, 100 photos, whatever it is. A lot of the stuff that I teach is hands-on stuff compared to, like social studies, where like, okay, you have to know, the first 50 states, in order, or the first 10 presidents, whatever it is, where they can just Google that. So my class is a little bit different, where they can't just find the answers, and they actually have to go actually do it, which actually makes it like more like applicable, in my opinion, to them, because like in elective classes like my class or an automotive class, they're having to do hands-on work to decide whether or not this is something that I want to go in after high school when I go to college, or decide if I even want to go to college. So that's why I think that like reading and all these other like elective classes is really, really, really important for these kids in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, though, that I was going to college to be a history teacher at one time. So if all you're doing is memorizing dates in history, you ain't doing it right.
Right?
There's a hands-on way for history as well.
Yeah.
Correct me on that.
Last year, one of the history teachers had these kids recreate World War II propaganda posters as a way to be more engaged and get the kids, excited about learning. And then they presented it in front of the whole class, which I thought was really cool. So they were looking at like Golden Age comic book covers and whatnot, because a lot of those are Captain America busting down the Nazis. You know what I mean? So I thought that was just something cool to get the kids engaged and excited about the work.
TJ just asked a question. And hey, TJ, thanks for being here. The number 1 course in community college in Michigan is remedial reading. Can someone tell me, how do you graduate high school when you can't read?
Well, my argument might be that it's possible that the community college doesn't require a diploma to go there. Maybe these are ESL people who are trying to learn English. I don't know.
Or kids that require like an IEP, where kids are like, you got to shorten assignments, or maybe not like, maybe they can't read the whole text, but they can read the first paragraph or second paragraph out of a whole article. It just depends on the kid. We got to specialize for kids to make sure that they know the stuff themselves. You know what I mean?
It could also be something to do with special ed or ADA, because thanks to that, I didn't have to take an ACT or SAT to get into my college. So
wow,
I didn't have to prove anything other than I graduated high school. That was it.
Now, Big Will, you said with your dyslexia, did you have like specialized teachers that could help you in that field when you were going to school back in the 2006 period?
They didn't really have them.
Dang.
It was only in the 90s where I was going through all that teachers started to come out actually being able to help you with that. But thankfully, my mom, during almost all of those years I mentioned, was a special ed teacher. Mm-hmm. So she was able to help me, and my teachers were very understanding. But I remember being in 3rd grade, odd enough, asking the teacher and spending half of the day taking an index card and cutting out a slit and then coloring it, making it dark all around it, so I could block out all the words except the sentence I was reading because all that information was too much for me to handle.
Sure.
That's good stuff. Now, did your teachers like kind of show you that trick, your mom and them?
No, I thought it up myself, actually.
Dang.
I noticed everything was getting crazy. I was like, well, shoot, let's get this stuff out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
but doing that helped you like succeed in reading?
Well, that, and I learned how to spell invincible and incredible in 3rd grade because of comic books.
Nice. Hell yeah, man.
And I will say, so my best friend growing up was dyslexic, and I've had some dyslexic students over the years. They tend to be students with the best memories. They memorize, right? They memorize how to spell words. They don't do it by visual, right? They have to do it by memory, and they also become incredibly sociable. And my best friend is one of the most socially active people I know. Like he remembers everybody's birthdays. He remembers to call and check in with you. He remembers all the great anecdotes, all the great. They end up having to become very social so that they can get those needs fixed through creative means, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, can you help me? What are we supposed to do on page 4? What are we supposed? They become friends with all these other people so they can trust them to help them when they need it. It's all these powerful coping mechanisms that make them very valuable in the workforce, where they go up to a job and they can communicate with people. They can look you in the eye. They can solve problems quickly. They don't need the device. They don't need all these things because they have a strong memory and strong social skills. The drawback is they just need support in those reading skills.
Not to toot my own horn, but most people with dyslexia, and unless they have the severe cases, which most actually don't, they will find a way to learn. And most of your famous comedians, a lot of your very high-level people like physicists and mathematicians, Einstein, for example, were all dyslexic. And can y'all talk about that, by the way? And I know my Southern's coming out, but that's okay. It's my channel. How some people, I remember in 7th grade, the teacher said, let's imagine someone who can't read, and had some numbers on the board. It said, so they wouldn't know what that meant. And it was very hard for another one of the classmates of mine to comprehend that if you don't know how to read, you don't understand numbers as well as words. Can y'all explain that to people? Because once we learn how to read, we tend to forget that when you look at math, that is also reading.
Think of the classic Rorschach from The Watchmen. All those symbols on his face mask, they're changing into the weirdest things. You don't know what the hell they are. Well, focus, put some letters, put some numbers on a chalkboard. And those students that have dyslexia, those students that can't read, they're going to look at that, and to them, in their eyes, it's going to look like some kind of alien language, of just weird symbols that they wouldn't even comprehend what the hell they are. So, man, you got to read to achieve.
Yeah, and the students I've had with dyslexia, it's a visual processing challenge, right? So this is not just a reading and writing area. It's anytime you're trying to visually track and focus on things when there's a lot to look at. So it can affect them even in, like you're saying, in math. If I'm doing a complicated math problem with several steps and I'm trying to do it on the board and I've got all these symbols going on here, it's going to affect anything that's visual processing. And in fact, in my area of California, there's a lot of companies starting up with visual and audio processing as their fundamental gimmick, if you will. They're there to help students that need assistance with audio or visual processing challenges. So kids that have trouble hearing and retaining information just spoken to them, or kids that have trouble tracking and then processing that information so that they can use it later.
Mm-hmm.
Berk, you want to get on that?
I think a lot of dyslexia and all that stuff, a lot of that comes from, it obviously varies person to person, but I've noticed as I've gotten older that I've become a little bit dyslexic because little thing, number certain words. And I think a lot of it for me is just like when I'm trying to work through things too quickly. So I read the word or I say the number of what I think it is or what I thought it would be or what it actually is. You know what I mean? And so I think when I get this
Breaking up a little bit there.
I agree, Berk.
and they are. What's up? What up?
I agree, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of
since
these
we're
kids.
are you froze, Berk, or are you there, or just? Oop, and we lost him. Well, I was going to say, since we're on this topic of dyslexia, as a guy who has it and has really overcome it about as much as you can, let me give you a few tips and reasons why comics are actually so helpful. And before I do that, we have someone else who's joined us. How you doing, Bork and Comics?
Borkin.
Now, one reason why it helped me to cut a slit in the paper was all the noise with the other words. Even today, if I were to read a novel's page, I would get to the bottom of the page, and by that time, all the words would start coming together and swirling, and then my brain wouldn't be able to take that information, and it would shut off, and I'd go to sleep. If I read one page, maybe two of a novel, that's what my brain does to me. I will be put to sleep. So how do you do that? Well, you take all the noise away. You make it so you can follow the single sentence, and that will help. Another way that you can help take away the noise is with color. A lot of people don't realize that, but if you take a standard white sheet of paper with Times New Roman on it, 12-point font, and you hand it to a kid with dyslexia, well, obviously it's going to be hard for him to read. However, if you print that same black letters, just a little bit bigger, maybe size 14 font, and put it on red paper or on blue paper, they can go a lot farther in their reading than if it was the other way. I don't know what it is, but the color helps. And what do comics do? The words and sentences are broken up into these small bubbles that you can read, stop reading, and then read again. And there's artwork. And even in the black and white ones, there's the motion of the lines. So it creates movement or noise that you can look at. And then in the color comics, which is most comics, there's that color that helps go around the white page of the speech bubble with the black lettering that most of them have.
So having it divided in the word bubbles and stuff, that also helped because that divided the letters. It kept the letters in the word bubble while all the other colors and actions were on the outside of the word bubble. That helped you out.
Yeah, it did. And
that's awesome.
It's to the point now where about the only book I will read that's not a comic except for reference is the Bible. And the only reason is because if I try and read something, I can't read it for very long and it puts me to sleep, but I can read the entirety of Kingdom Come in a trade in one sitting and I'm okay.
And then if you read it at night and you're reading in that New Testament and you're reading those red letters, you know, Jesus is talking to you. He wake that ass up because the letters are being read. Then you read it better.
And I also make sure any Bible I read has those red letters for Christ, because the red letters, again, that's color, and it helps. And I will tell you that a lot of people with dyslexia, also, it helps to have a visual aid. It helps to touch. It helps to see what you're talking about as well as reading it. Like, for example, most people when they read, speaking of the Bible legend, most people when they read about Jesus saying, whose image is on this coin? And they say, well, it's Caesar's. And he talks about paying taxes to Caesar. They normally get some kind of, the preacher makes a tax joke or something and just talks about that. And then they move on. But no one clicks or it doesn't click with anyone except someone like me, he used a visual aid.
Yeah.
He not only said truth, he showed them the truth by making them see it in a different way. And when you can do that with anything, history, science, whatever, that really helps. And if someone's struggling to read, that may be the only way that helps them get it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't always fall back on just reading the notes in a book or the instructions on a sheet of paper, which, of course, most of the time it's in Japanese anyway, those instructions, but, you know.
Dude, Big Will, man, that stuff you're saying right there, that's Big Will's truth, man. You're a legend, man. That's your truth.
So I think we can help out.
Me too, dude.
Here's what I'm thinking. Would you guys think it would be a good idea to go to, say, a state that's gone down in their reading levels for 4th and 8th grade and see if we can't bring those levels up? See if we can't get it to read a little better?
Dude.
Well, Alabama normally fights with Mississippi for the honor of the poorest and the one with the least amount of literacy. So I feel like being in Alabama, I'm in perfect position to do this. And what is it that I want to do? I want to create a mini library of trades, not mature stuff, but, you know, teen level and, you know, children's too. Maybe throw in some of that in there and bring it to a library in a school. That way kids will have something that they will want to read. Unless you're good at reading, you don't like it. I think, John, you're okay with reading. Legend, you're okay with reading. Would you want to read something that you didn't like?
I think there's definitely what you're saying. You're getting into motivation here, which is a really important part. I had a mentor teacher tell me that kids' abilities in reading came down to the 2 I's: their interest and then their independent skill level. Meaning, if they're reading a book that's above their independent skill level, they're going to get frustrated. They're not going to want to do it. If they read a book that's way below and doesn't challenge them, they're going to get bored. They're not going to get it. So the skill level is one piece. And then their interest. Are they reading about something that they are interested in? And that, if you can hit both of the 2 I's with kids, they're going to keep reading. They're just going to keep doing it. So I've found graphic novels to be huge in my classroom. I keep, my girls, I bring the best stuff from home to school and the best stuff from school to home. So my girls are getting it from both sides, but it's, like when we're talking about Amulet or Miraculous or these great trades for kids, it takes those kids that might be struggling, like you're saying, and it hits that interest level really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Makes motivation.
Yeah. And okay, here we go. I knew there had to be something else to this thing here, and it came up in StreamYard. As you guys were aware, Puerto Rico has been kind of going through a lot with earthquakes. I was asked if there was anything I could do to help the people affected. The only thing that came up to my mind was comic books. So I send the kids down south a bunch of comics so they can think of something else while going through this. That is something else, is that, first off, you got to want to read it. What's big right now? The MCU. Harley Quinn's got her show. She's new Birds of Prey movie. DC's doing stuff too. And then there's all the independent stuff that people would probably want to read because of all these shows and everything else.
CGC.
Also an escape.
CBCS. You can't read those because they in slabs, people. So we're talking about book, trade, paperbacks, no slabs.
Right. So what I'm thinking about doing is getting about 100 trades together, making sort of a mini library, going to one of the schools in the area here. I've already made some phone calls and trying to figure out which one's best. I'm thinking about going with a county school rather than a city school for obvious reasons. And I want to get with the librarian and see if they can keep track of not necessarily every book, but see if a lot of people are checking them out and then checking them back in, and then other people checking them out, seeing if they're getting good use. And I don't know if I can do this part, but if I can, I want to know if their reading or literacy scores increase.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't have a test that they have access to, I would go to like an English class or something and see if their scores increase, because I imagine they would.
One thing you can also do is talk to that librarian. When you donate the 100 trades, let her know, hey, is there a special way you could tag these? Like call them Big Wheel Comics or Comic Book Community or Contest, or, you know, put a tag on it to where she can look up all of those books by that one tag, and she could see the checkout history of every single one of those books that you donate through this program.
Well, that's an idea. But I have one problem with that idea, though. I don't have 100 trades.
Oh yeah, we were getting there. Yeah.
I have a few things that I have ready that I would love to send, but I need the community's help with this.
Mm-hmm.
I need some people to send me some trades, and preferably, you know, multiple people sending multiple trades, so I can hopefully do this and we can get this thing started. Like I'm current with Immortal Hulk. I can send all those. I can send a few other things that I have, but that's maybe 10 trades in total, maybe a little less. So I'm going to need some help. What is the best course of action you guys think to get the community involved? Because I don't want to have to clog up all their feeds and stuff on Instagram and with YouTube begging for books, but is there a better way, or is that the only way? What do you guys think? I'm just shooting the breeze here for this.
I'm sure me and John can promote it on like the Comic Core stuff, like John on Wednesday night, The Greatest Show, and then me on the Friday night. We can always let people know that, hey, Big Will needs your help. We need to send 100-something trades in order to get these kids some new stuff to read, some stuff that's appealing to the eye, that's going to suck them in when they're driving by. When they look at that book, they're going to be like, damn. And then they're going to go pick it up and read it. So, and then you got to get some books, got to get them to Big Will. So Big Will, are you going to put like maybe your mailing address in the video description so people can mail them to you? Or?
Well, no, I'm not going to do that in the description of a video. That'd be kind of bad. But
private message Big Will on Instagram. He'll let you know.
Yeah, I think the best way to go is just do Instagram. And I'll do my own address. I guess that's safe enough if I trust some people. I figure between 10 of us, we ought to get 100.
Hell yeah.
I mean, one of us alone, like one of you guys, I assume you got probably 30, 40 trades.
Yeah,
I'm
a trade collector, so I definitely have a handful that I could send without any issue. I was going to say that for those of you, I saw Mark say he doesn't own trades.
That is a great suggestion.
If you go to your local comic shop and tell them what you're doing, they might have some that they're willing to donate or that they're willing to sell at a discount rate. I know my LCS already sells a bunch of stuff at half price, and I could get a bunch of trades at half price. And if I tell them what I'm doing, maybe they bulk that up for me and they give me another discount on top of that to help the schools and to help themselves. So there's a lot of options. If you just want to get a few trades, message Big Will, say what you want to send, and then send those along.
And definitely say what you want to send, because if you want to send Bitch Planet, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say no. Because I got to keep it within the rules of school.
We're looking at high school age material, right? You're saying high schoolers, right?
Yeah, teen level or less. If it's rated mature, best not send it, although some mature things are perfectly fine.
I was going to say the Immortal Hulk does have some pretty graphic stuff, but
but I mean,
no language and no sex.
Right. And I do want to answer Bub's question here. Here's a moral dilemma for you. If you go to your local library and see an AF-15 for checkout, what do? Well, you sell it and charge them a 10% commission fee and donate the rest to the library. That's exactly.
Go down to the Mark Spector comment right underneath it, and I think you get your answer right there. Only in your dreams, bub. Only in your dreams.
And thank you, Kachun. And yeah, I'll definitely try. I didn't even think of going to my LCS. I'll definitely try that out. And let's see.
So I know I'm going to do that on Wednesday when I go in. I'm going to cruise through the 50% off books in the trade section that my LCS has, see if I find anything that would work, and then just tell my LCS owner I've got a good friendship with him, and I'll just be able to say, hey, can I get a discount on these 5 trades? Here's what I'm doing with them. He knows I'm an honest person. I'm not going to be lying to him. If I'm sending these off to a school, would that be okay? And then I'm willing to guarantee he would cut an even bigger discount off of those books.
All right. Well, what I will do is sometime tomorrow I'll create an IG post about it and send it out there into the ether. And I will also do, maybe not tomorrow, but Tuesday or so, I'll do a YouTube video where I'm saying, hey, here's my project. I need some help. DM me for an address to send books to and what you plan on sending. And we'll see if we can't do this, because I think the hardest part will be getting all of the trades. But once I get them, I think it'll be fairly easy to take it to a librarian who's probably spends most of their days begging kids and teachers to come in there and use the books and check them out. I think it'll be a nice net for them to have those in the back maybe and advertise that they're in there. That'll get kids coming in, checking out other stuff as well, hopefully.
And then, I will say, I know on Saturdays, the library, on my Saturday show, the library comes up a lot because my girls and I go to our local library, and the quality and quantity of graphic novels for all ages at a local library is impressive. If you've never checked your local library, there's just a shout out to you guys to check that out, because it's possible that I never
remember, John, you're in California though.
It's true.
None of my libraries around here have anything. You might be lucky to find one book.
Oh, well, if you haven't tried, though, take a look. Maybe in your state or in your county, you'd have an option, because I was always blown away by the local libraries here and what they have for graphic novels.
Mm-hmm. At my library as well, we got a ton of graphic novels, and if we don't have something a customer wants at our location, we can usually do something called interlibrary loan, to where we can order any kind of trade from another library, and they'll send it to us, and then we'll check it out to you. So, there's just so many great ways. Just talk to your local libraries, see if they have an interlibrary loan program, get any trade you want, read, and you will succeed.
And we have Drew Manchu joining us. What's up, Drew? But yeah, and I will also say another thing is, when you try and do stuff like learn to read new things on your own, you can do that fine, but sometimes you might hit a stumbling block. I want to go up, if I can find this comment that TJ wrote down, and if I can, here it is. He said he was a Southern Baptist and read the Bible when I was very young and could quote it, but didn't really comprehend it till the 3rd time around in the 9th grade. Shakespeare was easier. Well, the reason Shakespeare was easier is you were a Southern Baptist. You were most likely having to read the King James Version, and that's it. And that was done, I believe, in 1611. And what you were probably reading was a New King James or the Standard King James, which didn't change much from 1611. We've had better translations now that can take it from that old English language that is a bit hard and put it into a language that you can understand better with modern stuff. So,
well, and I will say, I had amazing high school teachers when it came to Shakespeare, and I was we didn't read Shakespeare like it was a book, because that's not what it was meant for. We acted that out. And every day when we were reading Shakespeare, my senior English teacher had us do 3 Shakespeare plays over the course of a year. And we acted that out. And, one day, and the boys played the girl parts, girls played boy parts. We just swapped it all around. The goal was to see it moving in action, because if you hated Shakespeare because you read it like it was a book, that's why you hated it. You should watch Kenneth Branagh do Shakespeare, because that's what it should look like. You see, I remember being in high school and my brother and I flipping around the tube, and we found Much Ado About Nothing with Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson. And that was hilarious. And my brother and I did, we were the kind of kids that would watch Beverly Hills Cop and Die Hard, but we stopped down and watched Much Ado About Nothing because it was hilarious. And it had Denzel Washington, and it had, was it Keanu Reeves, and it was Michael Keaton was in that. It was quality people performing it, not just reading it, and that made all the difference.
Right. Soon, Eel O'Brien, Plastic Man, is going to get his own movie, or some big hype about Plastic Man's going to come up, and then finally the kids are going to get to see the awesome superhero Plastic Man kick some butt.
But anyway, yeah. So it sometimes you might need a little help finding a way to read what you want to read better. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another thing, another beauty of comic books is that it's a way to, by the way, my roommate's getting ready for work. That's why I'm not on camera right now. But that's another reason comics are so great, is because not only do they open this new world to you of fantasy or action or adventure, whether you're reading superhero stuff or not, but it can also give you a new way of looking at something, because not only do you have text, but you have art as well. And I can tell you right now, if you're trying to learn what something looked like and all you have is text, you can only go so far. Mm-hmm. So there have been certain things in certain comics, I've thought of things in a new way. Sorry to keep getting biblical for those of you that don't like it, but the Trinity is a hard to explain concept, and I find that I can explain it just a little bit easier showing the living tribunal.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's all about, man. And if you ain't down with that Trinity, you ain't down with the God, maybe you'd be down with the Phantom Stranger, Pandora, or Vic Sage, The Question, New 52's Trinity of sin, though. So you got to watch out whether you're a sinner or whether you're into doing the good stuff. This truly is doing the good stuff. And, we couldn't do it if you don't send some good trade paperbacks, man. Pick out some of your best reads that you want to see and you want to give a good home. It's going to a great library where the kids will hang out and roam. So read to succeed.
And I want to highlight, not to pick on you or anything, Drew, but the way we communicate ideas most clearly is through written words. No. The way we communicate ideas the most is through written words, not necessarily most clearly, because some things like emotion, it's better to sing a song sometimes. When you're dealing with mechanical things, sometimes it's better to get in there and do it yourself. And sometimes it's better to look as well. So
he had a great comment up earlier where he said reading was always a part of my childhood, and I've made sure that it's a part of my daughter's life. Story is the most important part of any culture, the history, legends, and morality. Yeah, and that was a big part of the Native American projects my students just presented, was folk tales, reading the folk tales of a culture to look at their history and how they passed on that history through spoken language, and then of course it became eventually written language.
Yeah.
Mm. But the point is, you got to start reading, and if you're finding yourself having trouble, it's okay to ask for help. Who knows? You might be dyslexia, or you might just be an idiot. You'll never know till you ask.
Speaking of reading, I got something coming up with J Hood Creative. This coming up Tuesday, man. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a good time. I can't remember the time thing on it, but check out J Hood Creative. We're going to be talking about, and we're going to, Coach Vic, J Hood, myself, we're going to be reviewing this book here, Wiz Comics number 25. Woo! We're reviewing this one. This, of course, is Captain Marvel Jr.'s first appearance. Not only is it his first appearance, let me tell you, a cool dude who used to do some rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley, loved Captain Marvel Jr. It was one of his favorite characters. So if you look at his costumes, you look at Elvis's cape, he's got that, Freddie Freeman style. He's got that Captain Marvel Jr. style. So we're going to be talking about this book. We're also going to be looking at Fawcett Comics Master Comics 21, the first appearance of Captain Nazi. That was the first part of the trilogy. Then you got this book, and then you got Master Comics 22, when finally Captain Marvel Jr. is let on the loose, man. So we're going to be going back in time to December 1941, December 12th, only about several days away from Pearl Harbor. Wiz Comics 25 over there on J Hood Creative, where if you read to succeed, you'll achieve, and you can hear some good reviews from J Hood Creative.
Well, I think we're at 55 minutes. I think that's a good time. Legend, do you have anything else you want to plug before we get off here?
No, not really. I just hope everyone looks at this and really wants to, send some trade paperbacks, man. Let's get them in the hands of some of America's youth here.
All right. Thank you, sir. John, go. I know you have something to plug. What is it?
Well, yeah, I got the Comic Core Wednesday. I love that show. Really good fun. It's really just lighthearted silliness with comics. Nothing, no spec, nothing serious. Just good fun. And then book club this week. We are looking at the new Guardians of the Galaxy because Al Ewing is moving over to do a Guardians of the Galaxy run. We're going to try to test drive that out this week. And I got a bunch of stuff going this weekend, so just check out the channel for that. But more importantly, like Legend is saying, let's get some comics sent over to Alabama. Let's get those high schoolers enjoying some good reading. And I'm going to be posting stuff on my Instagram. I'm sure Legend will be doing the same. Mm-hmm. Just if you got questions, let us know. But let's make a little difference.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you to the great Legend. Thank you to John's Comics with Kids. And although he wasn't able to make it, thank you to Tacoma Comics. And thank you to Berk Family 54, Forever Nasty, for joining us for what time he could. And I will do some sort of Instagram tomorrow, and then probably tomorrow or Tuesday, I'll do another post from YouTube about this thing, and we'll see if we can't get it started. And I know some people have some stuff in the chat, but we're about to get out of here, so there's some things, man. I could go off on some of these things, man. I kind of want to do it, but no, it'd take too long. I have one thing to plug. Tomorrow, 9:30 Eastern, I have an auction.
Oh, heck yeah.
And I have a preview video already up if you want to know what's going to be there. And I got a few extras. Batman 81. And I guess we'll see you guys later. Thanks again for the chat joining us. Thanks, Legend, John, everyone else. We'll see you.